Next guest says the ban might stem from America's fear of TikTok, an app which challenges American dominance in the tech sector. Joining us now is Michael Schumann. He's a contributor to The Atlantic, author of Superpower Interrupted, The Chinese History of the World. It's good to have you here, Michael, and it's a must-read, a beach read more like. It's a long piece. You've done a ton of reporting on TikTok, talked to its founder a few times. From everything you've dug up around TikTok, how much is it a national security threat for Americans?
Well, I think what's really interesting about that question is that I don't really think the issue so much is TikTok or ByteDance or who founded it. It's really that we don't trust China. You know, when you think the issue is really not what ByteDance will do. Is ByteDance an agent of the Communist Party? The reality is that we know how China works. We know how the Communist Party works. And we don't trust that the Chinese government is not going to try to use ByteDance and TikTok to spy on the United States, to collect data on Americans for whatever kind of purposes that they have. I think if we trusted China more, I don't think we'd be having this conversation about TikTok.
But it's interesting because you draw a contrast to, say, Alibaba and Jack Ma, who I think was one of the people that paraded to Trump Tower when President Trump was first elected, before he was inaugurated, and how he was celebrated, Jack Ma, that is, during the IPO. Was it just a different time, or is there a big difference in the kind of companies and the individuals?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's really interesting when you think about it. 6 years ago, almost exactly, you know, Alibaba listed on the New York Stock Exchange. I was watching it actually on your network, and you know, Jack Ma was treated like a conquering hero, right? I mean, he was like entrepreneurial royalty. And here we are 6 years later with a guy who also, you know, Zhang Yiming is an entrepreneur who started his company with venture capital, a lot of it actually American money. And look at what he's facing. What has changed? And what's changed is really the entire American attitude on China has changed. Our entire attitude towards engagement with China. You know, now we look at engagement as this horrible mistake that all we did was kind of create China into this kind of massive authoritarian monster. But when you think about it, the Jack Ma's and the Zhang Yimings are the positive results of this policy of engagement. Now, you know, engagement is tossed out, and now we see these same people very, very differently than we did just a few years ago.
You've interviewed Mr. Zhang, Michael. What do you think he does next in order to maximize the value he can extract from this company he's created? Is it plausible to sell off just the U.S. business, or if he really wants to monetize things, does he have to sell it all?
Yeah, you know, he's had a very rough few weeks, but of course he was also banned in India, which was his largest market for TikTok, and the U.S. is his second largest. So, you know, with that, unless something very dramatic changes, you really have to question what is the future of TikTok itself. At the same time, you know, ByteDance has a lot of other businesses. They have a lot of businesses in China that are very, very successful. ByteDance will probably kind of go on and be just fine. But, you know, he's in a terrible position where he's not negotiating from a position of strength, right? I mean, he kind of it's kind of a shotgun arrangement with the deadline, and he's going to try to maximize his money, of course, and money for his investors. Again, a lot of foreign money. SoftBank is there, and other major venture capital companies. So, you know, they're going to want to maximize their money on this as well.
So what does all this mean for American companies that do business in China? Many of the sort of social media companies cannot, but there's always Apple and a lot of the consumer companies that are staking a lot of their growth prospects on that country. If we continue to do the TikTok bans, what happens to them?
Yeah, you know, I think what worries me about what's going on with TikTok in the U.S. is a potential precedent that it's creating. You know, here you have the U.S. government basically forcing a Chinese company to sell an asset to American investors on national security grounds. where does this go as relations continue to deteriorate? Is this something the Chinese government is going to try to do now to American companies operating in China? American companies are already having a lot of trouble, as you mentioned, especially in the internet space. Most American internet companies are already banned or heavily restricted. So this is something that the Chinese government doesn't have a lot of problems doing. So I'm worried that this is setting a whole new tone to the U.S.-China business relationship that isn't great, obviously, for Chinese companies, but may also not be very good for American companies.